Okay, in this section, we're going to check the results of reachability, of establishing reachability that resulted as part of our scan. And again, remember the scan parses sources, tries to establish reachability, uh, run the test against the APIs that are reachable, right? That's what it does. So in our case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to inspect every single one of these, and we're going to see what the reachability optimizer says, and potentially also double check the request editors. So let's start with post flight. Select the red dot, and you're going to see that we failed in our authentication, right? So that's our problem. We don't have an authentication, and again, it's clearly visible 401 unauthorized. You can see it in the response as well, and so on. So we try to create a flight. Here's the data. By the way, if you're wondering where did the data come from, the data come from the sample data that we provided in our OpenAPI specification. That's where they're coming from. Okay. If you don't provide data, they will either be junk or they will be auto-generated data. So ideally, every time you create an OpenAPI specification, provide something that is representative. That's the best practice. Okay. All right. So that's your reachability timeline for post flights. And you can see which authentication have been used. And again, no authentication and JOT no basic, which of course fails because we expect to have a JOT, not basic. Okay, fails. All right, so that's your post. If I take you to the get flights, select the reachability optimizer, you will see the same exact thing. Right? You will see the same exact thing. You will see that, hey, we failed because we got 401. And yet again, the no authentication and the JODO basic authentication was also in use in this particular case, right? Same thing like before. Uh, let's check the last one. Let's check the get flights by flight ID. This one is the interesting one, right? This one is the interesting one. Why? Because active testing already knows. It knows the it knows RESTful APIs, and these are RESTful APIs, right? And one of the most common frameworks in RESTful APIs is or design patterns, better said, design patterns is the collection member pattern. The collection says, okay, give me all the flights, give me all the data. The collection pattern says, okay, this is, you want to add now an element into the data, you use post to do it. Get flight is your collection that retrieves all the data, all the flights. Post flight is how you introduce new flights into the collection. And then you have an additional operation, the member, in that design pattern. So get flight by flight ID is the member. You're saying out of the list of flights, give me the one that is uniquely identified by this value, the flight ID. And of course, the only thing you see in this particular case is that post flight is not reachable. We cannot send a successful request to post flight. It's not very hard for active testing to identify this type of patterns. In our case, it fails because we do not have post flights. It's not even accessible. It doesn't work. And you can see the error, right? It says the target API has a dependency that could not be resolved. You can see the dependency actually, right? If you go inside the request editor, you can see the dependency that is set up already. Flight ID, post flight. It's already built. But if I show you now the dependency, remember post flights, if I take you back to Postman, in case you forgot, if I go and I do post flights, well, here's how I can create a brand new flight. But nowhere in here do I see that flight ID being returned, which is problematic. That's problematic, right? That's a bad design. I told you that's a badly designed API. Gotta be a way to return the identifier of the data we just created, and we do not. And it's built badly for a reason, and I'll show you the reason soon enough. Okay, for the time being, no, you have a bad API, badly designed API in your midst. Okay, but Active testing tries to deduce as much as it can, given the limitation. We cannot even reach those APIs. But all the operations we have discovered make sense. This is a textbook collection member design, RESTful design pattern. Right? That's what it is. If I show you the dependency, it says request. It doesn't say response because it's only the request that has that ID, right? It's only the request that has that ID. And it's in the body, which is application JSON, and the identifier is ID, right? And you can select anything you like. So that's another problem. You cannot depend upon the ID, which usually it's not present in the request, right? It's not present in our Postman. It's not present at all. Okay. So how can we fix all that? Well, that's going to come, my good people, in the next section, right? In the next section. This was just an explanation of all what the reachability optimizer already has decided and a little bit of a discussion on the design pattern and so on. For the time being, an explanation of all the three operations of the flight API, of the reachability results for the flights API is what we've done.